we will get started. We're going to get started shortly. We have about 7 minutes or so. Happy holidays to everyone. And we're going to talk about Bitcoin, BTC. Where is the bottom? How low will it go? When should you buy low so you can sell high? We'll be started in about 6-7 minutes. Be patient. Let the fun begin. Guten Morgen. So today we are talking about BTC, Bitcoin. As you can see, there was recently a pretty significant price drop. And if you're like me, you've been watching BTC like a hawk, looking for the best entry point at which to take on a position in BTC at a significant discount. Ultimately, the goal is to seek the bottom of Bitcoin. How low will it go? Right? Once we've identified successfully the bottom, then that is the best opportunity to take on a position with BTC and just ride the wave of the price going up and therefore your portfolio. So before we get into that, we're going to talk about a couple different concepts. We're going to talk about strategies of how to identify the bottom of an instrument, not just specifically cryptocurrencies, but in general. So whether it's stocks, bonds, whatever it is, right? You're trying to find the bottom. What are some strategies that you can utilize to do that, so that you guys can apply those strategies to your own methods to identify what's the bottom of BTC. But before we get into that, just want to make a few disclaimers. Let me do a quick sound check, and then we shall proceed. Okay, so first things first. So I've been working in investment banking for just about 2 decades. And more specifically, when I refer to myself as an insider, I want to make something abundantly clear. I have certain rules and regulations to abide by in terms of what kind of information I can give out publicly. I have been one of the pioneers in the cryptocurrency space, not in any sort of major way like I invented something or I created BTC or anything like that. I've just been directly involved with some of the groundwork that was required to sort of establish and build some of the structures that are going to be used or already being used for trading of cryptocurrencies. So that means interacting directly with existing exchanges and future exchanges. That means being involved in the process of the design and building of new order types to support new types of instruments. For example, hybrid types of instruments. So just like in equities and other asset classes, you have a lot of different special types of order types. Now we have this new emerging market, this cryptocurrencies. So there are also new order types to enable different types of opportunities and options in terms of trading, how you can trade cryptocurrencies. So I've been directly involved in that. Now, that being said, again, there's information that I am not able to relay to you guys. I am bound by the regulatory bodies and their rules, and I am not going to be a fool and relay anything that I should not be relaying to you guys. Beyond that, what I can say, I guess I'll address some issues. In terms of one of the common concerns, people talk about Bitcoin being, I myself am falling victim to a very bad habit that has been caused by a lot of the hype that has been created around cryptocurrencies. For example, the branding situation where you have, let's say, GoPro cameras, and we're going to be looking at GoPro stock later on today, but GoPro cameras, right? Such a big name that people are calling other brands GoPros, right? It's a household name. So Bitcoin has kind of become that as well. So even I, knowing better, rather than saying digital currencies, I actually just said Bitcoin, when really what I meant is digital currencies, because Bitcoin is only one, right? Only one currency, right? I'm specifically focused on Bitcoin for the purpose of this video, but I'm also discussing cryptocurrencies as a whole. So one of the concerns that people have is, it being a scam. This is some new bubble and all that kind of stuff. So my comments there are due to the nature, for lack of a better word, I'm going to use a very inappropriate word, but hopefully it gets the meaning across, due to the sort of open source really not really the best word for that, but it's just with traditional instruments, you have an extreme level of regulation involved, right? And with all those regulations comes a level of protection, right? The less regulations you have, and there's positives and minuses to regulation, but the less regulation you have, the more susceptible you are to, fraud and things like that. So case in point, let's get back into more traditional markets and you look at things like the pink sheets, for example, right? There's certainly a lot of, on a base level, there's certainly a lot of people that are on YouTube, for example, that are, they're not even in the industry. Well, they're not in this industry. They're in a different industry. They're in the industry of selling you on their secrets. So I'm going to tell you the secret, my program, and how I've made all these returns, and it always works, and blah, blah, blah. They even come on my videos, right? I make a video about foreign exchange and things like that, and they'll come on my videos and they post links to their secret plans and all this kind of stuff. And these are people who are not industry folks, right? They don't make their money from trading, right? Their money is made from selling you that they have some magic plan in terms of strategies that'll, this always works, right? That's what they're in the business of. I am actually in the industry itself. I am not in the business of selling any kind of strategies. In fact, I will let you know, I am not in any way a cryptocurrency expert in terms of I have some secret plan and I'm going to let you in on some secret methods and things like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to inform you and educate you and give you the tools so that you yourself can figure out what works for you. I will advise you in terms of some things you need to consider in terms of best practices and, just things you need to be aware of when you're getting involved in cryptocurrencies. But I have no magic formula, and I'm not going to be revealing anything to you that is sort of proprietary information that should not be given out to the public, right? So I'm just here to give you sort of a good foundation for you to run with and do your own homework and your own thought process and figure out what works for you, right? That's ultimately what I'm looking to do here. So again, not a cryptocurrency expert, don't have any secret plans for you, not going to be giving out any insider proprietary information at all. The focus here, we want to look at strategies to identifying the bottom of an instrument, not specifically cryptocurrencies, just in general. We want to also, and more to the theme of the video, try to see how we should look at or strategize being able to identify BTC. Right now there is, or the bottom of BTC. Right now there is very possibly we are nearing a great opportunity in terms of time to buy Bitcoin. My previous target was 6,000, and I've been monitoring things for a while. I avoided all of the hype in the beginning. Everyone just, oh, Bitcoin, right? And avoided all that nonsense. Waited for things to calm down. And I've been watching it go down and down and down and down. Because that's, for me, my personal strategy is I like to jump in when there's discounts. Let me do a quick check on the sound. Make sure the sound is good. So I like to jump in for discounts. So when everyone is out of money, their portfolios are, in disarray, and everyone's panicking and all that kind of stuff, that's when I jump in. And that's why they say cash is king, right? Cash is king. People take on a lot of debt, right? And they overextend themselves. And then the market goes against them, and then they are in deep trouble, right? I like to be more reserved. For example, once again, we had this big, everyone's buying. Oh, you got to jump into this thing. It's cryptocurrencies, right? And I could see where things were headed. in terms of it was definitely becoming overhyped. So what that means is there's certainly a lot of opportunity. No risk, no reward, right? There's certainly a lot of opportunity to make a lot of money, and certainly people did make a lot of money. However, there's a downside when you have this excessive level of interest in something like that. At some point in time, it's like, how high can it go? So you have, the opposite of the bottom is the top. Where is that peak gonna be? And once we hit that peak, then you got to think about sort of price correction, right? The instrument becomes extremely overvalued, right? And many times there can be a rapid correction in terms of the price plummeting just as quickly as it rose. And here's one of the things, to let you know, if you're not already aware from an insider point of view, you have people who work in investment banking who are a lot smarter than myself, who they study these things. They know all kinds of mathematical, strategies and methods of sort of predicting and looking at patterns and all this kind of stuff. And they have state-of-the-art technology available to them. I mean, technology that would just blow your mind. I remember the first time I heard about being able to send orders using laser technology. I mean, that blew my mind as a person who's been involved in high speed trading, which is cutting edge on its own. But then you talk about lasers now, point of sight technology, where it's just mind blowing. But the thing about it is, you have these individuals, very intelligent, advanced technology beyond your probably what you're even aware of that's out there, right? Unless you're inside the industry yourself. They have strategies and methods of watching the insanity that was cryptocurrency, watching it rise and rise and rise, and they know how to jump in at the right moment, right, and ride that wave, right? And again, this technology and intelligence and math and all this, talking about PhDs, right? This is what you're talking about, PhDs who are using some cutting edge technology, right? And there you are, just a regular Joe sitting there, you heard the news and some friend told you, jump in crypto, you got to get the crypto, right? And you're just sitting there watching, Yahoo Finance, watching the money go up and watching your account go up, and you're like, yeah, right? But these individuals have technology and information and know-how that allows them to ride that wave right along with you, while at the same time being able to sort of predict what's to come. So in short, riding that wave with you and then exiting their positions before you are able to react. So price goes up 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, and you're just like, yeah. Meanwhile, they already have algorithms and strategies, and it's all planned to where they are going to jump out of the market. But you have no idea about any of this stuff, right? You're just looking at everything's up. But once it starts, and that's why you'll see, if we look at it, let's back up. Let's go to where it really took a dive. So if you look right here, so this is actually Robinhood, which if you're looking for something that you can trade without having to pay fees, Robinhood is pretty good for that. What just happened here? Now, you don't really get much in terms of value, in terms of, it's really, really bare bones, which is why, you don't have the fees. But if you just want a method where you can do your trading and not have to pay the fees, then I highly recommend you look at Robinhood. Now, I don't have any relationship with Robinhood. Well, let me clarify that. I don't have any promotional relationship with Robinhood, so I don't get anything. You guys getting Robinhood does not benefit me in any way financially. It does not benefit me in any way in terms of relationship with Robinhood. I have had a relationship with Robinhood, but that's in terms of projects that I was working on with them, right? Which have nothing to do with selling their services or anything like that. It had more to do with what's behind the scenes that allows this to work, right? The ability of you to get on here and do trading, parts of that I was involved in making that happen. So just for full disclosure. So once again, I don't benefit at all, recommending them. So with that being said, if you look online, you look at reviews, you will see, I think there's a good amount of good reviews, but there will be people complaining. And what they'll be complaining about is the fact that it's really bare bones, right? But that's the point. Nothing in life is free, right? If you want all these fancy gizmos and features, and you want be able to call them up and have them give you tips and advice, and how do I do this, and how do you want all that stuff, that's going to cost you money, right? If you want to just be able to trade and you don't want to pay the fees, then this is an excellent option. But you get what you pay for, which is the ability to trade without paying commissions, right? With that being said, so this is I'm logged into my Robinhood account, and you can see here where things just plummeted really, really quickly. So once again, a lot of these guys will have strategies planned. Now, many of them, part of the deal is also being a professional. You should know how to control your emotions and not get greedy, right? So even though you see things are going up and going up and going up and going up, you don't just sit on your positions until forever. It's only going to go for so long. So a lot of people will sort of plan, how much, sort of predict how far it's going to go, and predict or plan out, how much, it's like you have a goal, right? So for example, let's say you bought at 2,000, right? Your goal is, I want to double that, right? So you start at 2,000, it hits 4,000, and then you exit your position. Most people won't do that, right? That's a one of many professional strategies, right? Now, the layman, which is average person, they're not going to do that. Why am I going to exit? This thing is just going through the roof. I just doubled my money in a week or a month. Why would I exit my position? Are you crazy? Look at it. It's 4,000, 4,500, 4,800. I'm going to keep riding this wave, right? And they'll ride the wave all the way to the peak, right? And watch all of their gains just be lost, right? Because they're emotional and they get greedy. That's one of the dividing lines between a professional and an amateur, is the ability to sort of be disciplined in your approach, right? You have a horizon in terms of how much time you're looking to sort of make a return. You have a goal of what type of return you're looking for, and you stick to the plan. Things are going crazy. I mean, there's ways that you can still sort of take advantage if you feel it's really going crazy. It's going to continue going, where you can sort of, like, maybe you don't have to necessarily liquidate your entire position, right? You can minimize your exposure levels, right, by sort of liquidating some of your position, but not all of it, allowing you to still take advantage of, more of the gains, while at the same time sort of mitigating your risk by exiting a large portion of your position. So if you have, let's say you have, this thing went up to 18,000, right? So let's say you had 50,000 invested in Bitcoin, right? I mean, just throwing something out there. This is not something I'm recommending or seen as a good idea, but just to give you the idea. So you have 50,000 invested in Bitcoin, right? It rises to 100,000 in terms of the value of your position, right? At that point in time, you could perhaps liquidate 75,000, right? Liquidate 75,000 and still hold on to that 25,000, right? Potentially that 25,000 could double and become 50,000, right? And then maybe you ride it a little bit too long and it starts to fall back, right? But you only have a 25, you only, the position that you held on to was only 25,000, right? So your losses are limited by that smaller position. Now, if you had kept the full 100,000, all right? Remember, you started at 50, you went up to 100,000. If you kept that full 100,000, then you risk losing it all, right? What if you stay too long and then you end up with a value of 40,000? So now you've taken 10,000 loss, right? So that's a strategy where you can exit a majority of your position, but still maintain some, so you can still, you know, get some benefit of the continuing rising prices kind of thing. And there's also other strategies, you know, such as hedging and things like that, and we'll get into that in future videos. But the bottom line is not to be greedy, to have your plan, stick with your plan, right? You figure out what kind of gains you're looking for, right? You get them and you exit. Now, once again, these are the strategies where professionals will be able to take advantage of these fast gains and avoid the massive losses if they're good, right? Additionally, you have technology like algorithms, right, where they can be sitting there while you're sleeping, monitoring this activity. And there's things you guys can do as well in terms of the order types that you use, the things you can do to protect yourself. But they have algorithms that will sit there and monitor the prices, right? And it can look for certain patterns that indicate a change of direction. So for example, here we're rising quickly, right? And then it starts to fall quickly. Let me make this bigger. I didn't intend to have it be so small like that. I apologize for that. Let's bring this up here. Get my ugly face out of there and get this standby off of the screen. Right, so they can have algorithms that are sitting there. Once they see this certain pattern in terms of the price movement, it can automatically start closing out positions in the blink of an eye, right? You're sleeping. You guys are sleeping while this technology is sitting there all day long, monitoring, and in the blink of an eye, it can exit positions, right? So once again, they are able to ride this wave, make a lot of profit, right? Millions and millions of dollars, billions of dollars, right? And then avoid this, where things start to plummet, right? So that's something that you guys have to keep in mind when you're looking at investing, whether it's cryptocurrencies or anything else. But as far as the bottom, so generally speaking, this is the way that I look at Bitcoin right now. Again, I look at what we saw earlier in the year as sort of the hype wave, and again, I already pointed out that just because it's a I'm calling it quote unquote hype wave doesn't mean that there weren't opportunities. Certainly were opportunities, and certainly a lot of the professionals definitely made a lot of money there as well. But that's a very sort of volatile period, which again, volatility is something that can be very rewarding. As you can see, look at what happened. Just the same way that it can rise quickly, it can fall quickly, but it did rise quickly, which means you can have massive amounts of gains in a short period of time, which is awesome. But the bigger the reward means the bigger the potential risk. And this is exactly what this is illustrating, right? A fast rise also comes with a fast fall, right? Because this is not sustainable. This is not real. This is hype and news and everybody's doing whatever. So these are not realistic prices, right? So at a certain point in time, you know, reality is going to set in and the price is going to fall to something more realistic. And then you notice there's like a recovery as well here, and then it falls again. But the question now is, where is the bottom? Now, if you look at this graph, the way I look at things is we are definitely approaching the bottom. Where exactly is it going to be? That remains to be seen. But what I see here, this hype wave, and then it falls and it recovers, and then it falls drastically again, which is basically wiping out pretty much all of these gains, right? So anyone that was greedy and they thought, oh, it's just going to keep going up, it's just going to keep going up, right? You sat there and watched your money double, triple. I mean, just in you know, incredible gains, right? You watched all of that lost. And you had opportunities to avoid that because you saw this massive fall. If you bought early in, right, you saw this massive fall and you could have exited here and still had a lot of profit, right? And as you can see, some people did. Because see, it kind of stabilizes, it rises up. So I'm pretty sure a good amount of people exited their positions here. But some people were greedy, like, oh, it's going to come back, right? It's going to keep going. And it starts rising, and they're like, oh, yeah, here we go, man. We're about to go on the next wave, right? And then it falls again. And look how low. Lower than here, right? And then it rises and it falls and it rises and it falls and it rises and it falls and it rises. But the general trend line is it's just going down, 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 down. Not as aggressively as before. And you notice with time, the level of it falling down becomes like, it becomes more... Just looking at this graph, it becomes less volatile. Like here, it's just all over the place, up and down, all these spikes, right? Massive spikes, massive falls, right? And then you notice the spikes, not as much. This is September 2018, right? That's a small spike. It goes from 6,000 to 73, right? Not a huge jump at all. And then it drops down to 6,100. So not really big changes, right? And then if you look over this period of time, you see that it's just really not much going on. And then you see this big plummet that just happened. So November 12th, you saw things drop once again, one of the biggest spikes in quite some time. So the question is, where is the bottom? Now, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you where the bottom is, but I would say, in my opinion, we're getting close to that. And in terms of what the bottom means, there is a potential of things turning around and becoming bullish again. No guarantee. Right? No guarantee of that, but how that would happen is you have a lot of people like myself who've been sitting around and watching this and looking for the bottom. Now, I'm just one individual. Imagine tons and tons of traders doing the same thing that I'm doing, institutions doing the same thing that I'm doing, waiting for that bottom. Remember, we talked about these algorithms and technology and how quickly it can respond, right? So imagine that a lot of traders are sitting around and they have these strategies that they utilize, and they're seeking this bottom, right? I think there were quite a few stories talking about that. Let me see if I can pull something up here. So this is actually a September article, which should be interesting because we get to see what they were thinking about in terms of the bottom not too long ago versus what actually ended up happening. So let's take a look at this. And this. And this. And also this. Okay, so here's an article, CoinDesk. Is Bitcoin building a 2015 style price bottom? This came in September 12th, 2018. Right? That's what they were saying. September 2018. So for context, This article was written here. So interesting that the article was written here, because at this point in time, it did kind of stabilize, right? It wasn't the bottom because we ended up getting this big drop recently, but I say big drop, but compared to these spikes, not really as big of a deal. But the bottom line is, this article was written around the time that we saw a major change in the behavior of this very extreme volatility, right? And then, you know, it's rising, it's falling, and notice that these peaks get smaller and smaller, right? It's like the wind is just being blown out of the sails of this Bitcoin, right? And then this article gets written around here. So we can see kind of why this article is written in the first place. So they say Bitcoin's price action this year may be dismal, but it might not be without precedent. Having hit a record high near 20,000 in December, the world's largest cryptocurrency began 2018 backed. The world's largest cryptocurrency began 2018 backed a wave of optimism. I'm not sure if I'm reading that wrong. That doesn't sound right at all. Anyway, since then, however, it hasn't translated into gains for investors. Rather, the price appears to be following a pattern last seen ahead of a bullish reversal from September 2015. Why is that important for traders now? When the bull market ended last time around, we saw a violent drop in price, whereby bulls were unable to produce any significant highs over the course of the year. Comparing 2018 to 2015, there are other subtle similarities to draw on for analysis. So let me see if I can pull this up a little bit bigger. So here's 2018 on the left, 2015 on the right. So we can see massive drop in price, right? And then it starts to sort of try to revive. Now, if we look at 2015, we see the same kind of drop, and we see the same kind of trying to come back to life type of thing in the bottom here in the trenches. And then eventually it just starts rising rapidly again, which is what we would like to see happen once again. But will that happen? That's the question. I believe there is a high possibility that this will happen. And one of the things that will fuel this once again is you have a lot of traders, a lot of systems that are sitting around waiting for certain pattern changes. And once these pattern changes are identified, you're going to see a lot of trading being triggered, right? Automatically, where a bunch of buy orders coming in, buy, right? And a lot of these guys, there will be similarities in terms of their thought process. So there'll be similarities in terms of the algorithm. So, and then it's kind of a domino effect where, you know, you have a bunch of buy orders coming in on BTC, right? And that activity can trigger other sort of systems or strategies. So other strategies looking for, so you have the strategies that are, let's say, the strategies that are the most aggressive, I guess is the right word to use for that, where, you know, they are the most sensitive to a change in pattern, right? As soon as any sort of significant change in pattern happens that indicates like this is a bottom, boom, they start placing a bunch of orders. Then you have another system that is more passive, that's looking for sort of more aggressive changes in pattern, right? Those systems might be triggered by the initial system. The initial system start placing orders based on these more subtle changes in pattern, right? But by them placing orders, they are now generating more significant changes in pattern, right? Because if it's enough volume, it's going to move the market to where you're going to start seeing the prices going up, right? So now someone else's system starts getting triggered. So they start placing buy orders, and then somebody else's system gets triggered. And then you have the general market. People start looking, wow, BTC, it's rising again. It's rising again. Oh, how high is it going to go? Is it going to go to 20,000, you know? And then it's like a domino effect. Everyone's like buying, 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 buying. So that's ideally what we would like to see happen. And that's ideally what a lot of individuals are looking for. So the key thing is to identify what is the absolute, I shouldn't say what's the absolute bottom, because that's not an advisable strategy to, I'm going to wait until it's at the very, very bottom, right? Unless you have a ability to see into the future, it's advisable that you not try to be at the very, very bottom. You just want to, in general, get to the point where, generally speaking, this is the bottom, right? And at that point, you want to jump in so you can ride the wave of it going up. And then once again, the same issue exists as before, which is you want to be able to exit your position before it's too late. Because if it rises rapidly again, how long is it going to sustain that? Right? And you have to be able to play a little bit of chicken. You know, how long are you going to hold on to your positions before you say, all right, you know, this is too rich for my blood, I'm jumping out. So anyway, so they made a comparison saying, you know, look at what happened before, and they're saying it's looking like we're heading that direction now. Will Bitcoin bottom to 5,000 before springing all the way to 50,000 this fall? 50,000. That's insane. 50,000. That is insane. If that were to happen, wow. So this article is from, when was this published? This article is from, I hate articles that do not indicate time. Time is very, very relevant. 3 months ago. So it doesn't tell us exactly when, but it says 3 months ago. So this is around the same time as well. So probably once again, another article triggered by the change in pattern. They see the behavior changing, and they're like, okay, what's happening? What's happening here? Is the bottom coming up on us? So a few weeks ago, hedge fund billionaire Mark Lazary said that Bitcoin might reach 40,000 sooner rather than later. 10x founder Julian Hosp predicted Bitcoin to touch 60,000. Now, one of the things you have to be careful when you're reading these types of articles, be very, very wary of so-called experts. Now, notice in the very beginning of this video, I told you I'm not an expert, right? I'm giving you good information to consider, good information for you to run with and do your own sort of analysis and research and figure out what works for you. But there are going to be a lot of people that are going to be claiming to be experts, but what they're an expert in is selling you on the idea that they're experts so that they can make money off of you buying their plans, right? Then you have also people that are, one terminology we use, I don't know if it's used so much today, but painting the tape or market manipulation. So that's definitely a real thing that you have to be aware of, where people will sort of promote certain ideas that serve their interests. So like, this guy is a billionaire, right? I'm not saying he's doing anything, but this guy is a billionaire. He's got a lot of money, right? So with that money comes power to do a lot of things. So if he's looking to ride another wave, right, and just massively, you know, increase his money, right? He can promote the idea that there's this big wave coming and it's going to be a bull market. It's going to go to 60,000, right? And then, you know, he's a billionaire. He must know something, right? And then you got the media. All they care about is getting those clicks, right? So they will jump on board. Oh, big billionaire says it, you know, Bitcoin might go to 60,000. How high might it go? It might go to $1 million, right? That's a nice story that's gonna sell. So they'll jump on board too, and they'll put him on their, you know, CNBC, whatever. Hey, Yeah, my name is Mark Lesrie, and I predict that Bitcoin's gonna go to $80,000 by the end of the year. Right? Well, what you don't know is this Mark guy, and again, I'm not saying he's really doing this. I don't even know this guy. This Mark guy is selling a dream in order to basically manipulate the market. And what this person could do is keep pushing this. And with billions of dollars, think about what you can do. Think about who you can buy, right? To help promote this whole narrative of what's going to happen. Yeah, Bitcoin is coming, right? Bitcoin is coming. Bitcoin is coming. All right? And then if he starts gaining some traction where people start buying because they believe in what he's saying, right? And then it's like a snowball effect. The price starts rising. No, a guy who has billions of dollars can take on a massive position, right? Let's say he's got $10 billion, right? It wouldn't be that crazy for him to leverage, say, $1 billion of his $10 billion, right? Take on a position. This is risky, right? But it's only $1 billion of his $10 billion. If he loses the entire billion, he still has got $9 billion, right? So he can afford to do that. But imagine what you could do with $1 billion position in Bitcoin, right? You put that position in, all right? And then you watch the wave, and it doesn't take long, right? I mean, if you have $1 billion position, right, and Bitcoin rises by 4 times, I mean, you've now made $4 billion from $1 billion investment, right? And you can jump out, right? You're dealing with such massive amounts of money that you don't really have to be greedy. You don't have to ride the wave. And I mean, again, simply doubling $1 billion, right? Going from 1 billion to 2 billion would be a massive return, right? So you could do that and then exit the position, right? And then whatever happens, happens. You don't care. If the price changes are due to sort of market manipulation attempt where you've just sort of, hyped up this whole thing, right? So it's going to be short-lived. No biggie. Because once again, if this guy enters a position, holds it for a short period of time, then exits and takes those massive returns, it's good to go. Market tanks a week later, a month later, whatever. That's your problem. Right, so you got to be aware of stuff like that. I mean, guys like this operate on a different playing field. Now, obviously, what I described is highly illegal, but as you're well aware, illegal things happen all the time, right? So just bear that in mind. Be very careful of who you're listening to. You got YouTubers that are just trying to make money off of you, selling you their programs. I got the secret, right? They're not even in the industry. They don't really make money from the market. They make money from selling you that they have secrets, right? And you got these billionaires who have the ability to utilize strategies like what I just described, which is very, very, simplistic. There's a lot of other things that they can do that can allow them to take advantage of their power. Again, they have all this kind of money. I mean, having $1 billion to invest is, and then you have 9 other $1 billion as well to your name. That gives you massive power to do crazy things that, the average person can't do. Right? Normally, for most of us, we need to be able to, day traders, obviously, that's an exception, but most of us, we need to sort of hold on to our positions for a period of time because we need a significant level of gains for it to sort of make sense for us because we're not investing that much money. But when you're investing massive amounts of money, you know what I mean? Just on a very simplistic term, you invest $20, right? And you double your money. Now you have $40. Yay! Like, who cares? You got $20, now you have $40. Like, who cares? That means nothing. But when you have $1 million and you double your money, $2 million, that's significant. That's a big deal. $1 billion, $2 billion from $1 billion, that's significant, right? So you can do these sort of jump in, jump out things where you don't need that longer sort of time window in terms of, you know, I need a certain amount of gains. You know, I need to see my investment, you know, 3x, 4x, 5x before, you know, it makes sense for me. When you have big money, you don't need that, right? So just be aware of that. Be careful of reading stuff like this. Where will Bitcoin bottom out? Clem Chambers. I do not see a date. Here we go, June. So this is summer of 2018. So summer, they're already talking about this from summer. So summer 2018. So this article is written around here, which is interesting. This is an interesting time to write that article because all the craziness has already kind of settled down. It does appear like things are sort of getting to a point of a little bit more stability. You don't have as crazy, you know, rises and falls anymore, but a little bit ahead of the game because it was still kind of doing its thing. It's really in September where things really sort of flattened out. So that's interesting that they were already sort of picking up on things back then. The price of Bitcoin is now in the 5,000s. Condolences if you bought at 20,000. The question now is how far will it fall and how to buy the bottom. This is where we are as I write. I believe you should always look for and at the obvious in any chart. What did I just read? I believe you should always look for and at the obvious in any chart. So this is the trend. This doesn't mean it's going to zero, just that this is the road the Bitcoin price is on, all right? Until it materially leaves this trail, it is going down. The next question you need to answer is, does Bitcoin have a future? Some say it doesn't, but I think it does. And should you think you do too? So all we have to do is find the bottom and buy it. Let's put in some suggestions. This is interesting. So they put 5,500, 4,000, 2,500, 750 to 1,000. And they're looking at it based on previous performance. So it depends on how pessimistic you are or optimistic you are. Pessimistic down here, 751,000. Optimistic, 5,500. Again, none of these levels are destiny. They're only areas where the market fell equilibrium in the past. As such, you would expect these levels to act at least potential resting points or the bottom in a fall. Bottoms are very rarely V-shaped. They tend to be W-shaped. So what we're looking for is this, which is very interesting. So this interesting article from Forbes, I think this is one of the best ones that I've read. So I'll post a link to this in the description of this video. Just one moment. Un momento, por favor. Un momento, por favor. Per favore. Okay, so now let's look at some bottoms. Not apple bottoms, but different types of bottoms. So we can look at some graphs. So let's look at GM, which we were looking at the last time. Interesting, it saved some of our lines that we drew the last time. So let's look at this. So this is a 5-year. Let's look at the max. So notice that the bottoms are as described, right? You see this W? You have this W pattern. That's the bottom. It goes way down, and I guess some people think, oh, this is the bottom, and they jump in, right? Maybe prematurely a little bit, and it does start rising. Like this is because a lot of people doing the same thing, right? Oh, this is the bottom, this is the bottom, let's jump in so we can get the next rise, right? But it's not quite ready yet, so then it falls back down. But then when it starts rising again, now it's official, right? So this is how a major bottom looked like for GM, right? For reference. Now let's look at Apple. So Apple right now, oh yeah, look at Apple, man. Down, baby, down. 224 down to 178. Whoo! What is happening? What is happening indeed? So this is a lot of data. So we're looking at it from pretty wide. So the perspective is a little bit aggressive, but I guess this is one of the, it's a pretty significant bottom, because from here on in, it was just nothing but gains. If you bought here, if you bought Apple May 2016, wow. May 2016, you bought Apple at, what is it, $107, and rode it to double, right? So let's zoom in a little bit so we get a little better perspective. So this is the bottom right here. So we can see it was kind of, you know, going up, going down, going up, but the general pattern is rising, right? Let's see if I can draw those lines again. So the general pattern here was rising. General pattern here was falling. And then it was all uphill from there, right? If you notice the pattern here, it's kind of drops down aggressively, then rises up. Drops down aggressively, then rises up. But the general trend line was going down. Now where it transitioned, so this is kind of the same. It just, but you see the pattern though, right? So when it started on this uptrend, you can see, unlike before, it's like it rose and then it dropped. It rose and then it dropped lower than it was before. Like it kept rising and then dropping to a lower point, right? Because that's the path it was on. When it started changing direction, it would rise and fall, but fall at a higher point. Rise and then fall, but end up at a higher point, because now the trend line is now going upwards, right? So this is the new direction. So the idea of buying here at this exact point, I mean, unless you have some time machine, that's a little bit difficult to be able to be that perfect. But you could see that this is a change in pattern, right? Because yeah, it was rising before, but whenever it rose, it would fall lower. Now it's rising and ending up higher. So that is how Apple changed direction, right? So analysis of these patterns and picking up this trend in the falls being higher, right, would have been something that you'd have been correct on in terms of predicting that it is now reversing, right? If we look at Google, let's see if we can find a similar situation. So we can look at something. There's your W again. See that? Let's actually zoom in on that one. So it rose and then fell. Got this W where people start buying in, and it falls and it starts rising again, right? And then if we look here, we can see here is where the bottom was, right? So we're generally rising. Let's zoom in a little bit closer. This was such a, I don't even necessarily look at this as a bottom, right? Because if you look at the pattern here, The general trend line is that this was gaining, right? Where'd my... This was gaining. Like, that was the general direction of where it was going. This was just a momentary spike, right? Went up briefly, went back down. You know, that's a break of pattern, but the general pattern is that it was going up. See, now where it's headed, now it's headed in a direction where now we need to see where the bottom is, because this has been consistently going down since July of this year, right? Down, 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 down. That's a significant amount of time to be trending downwards. See here, I want to see where it was going down for a period of time. Google has just been very positive. I guess here's another. So this is a better situation. See this? So you're riding it. How high is it gonna go? How high is it gonna go? Peaked up here, and then plummets, and then tries to rise up again. Then plummets, and then here is the bottom. Right, bottomed out at where are we at? At 149, right? If we zoom in, we see rises aggressively, falls aggressively, but ends up lower than when it started. Rises aggressively, falls aggressively, but ends up lower than when it started. Right? Now, when the direction change occurs here, we see it rises aggressively like it did before, but falls to a point higher than where it began. Rises aggressively, then falls, but ends up higher than where it started. So you see that, again, this is similar to what we saw with Apple, right? With Apple, we saw this change. Adolf says, what about Kornblatt Dewey index? What about it indeed? So Apple and Google definitely exhibited similar patterns, right? Where we could definitely see a significant change in the behavior of the prices. So let's look at GoPro. GoPro, very interesting company. This was definitely a hyped up thing, and everyone, GoPro. I got GoPro, you got GoPro, right? Look at this massive rise, right? And then it falls. See, here's a point to figure out, like, where's the bottom, right? You rode it all the way up to 86, and then it's just going down, and it rises up, going down, and it rises up. But notice the trend line is, every time it falls lower than when it started. So the trend is definitely going down. Whoa. Going down. Here, going straight up. When does it change? Rising, falling, rising, falling, rising, falling, but this is actually not, this is a gentle slope, right? It's not plummeting. It's not this aggressive. See, this line is a nice steady decline. But notice the decrease in volatility as well, right? All this aggressive spikes stop. It's real smooth. It's following a consistent pattern downwards, right? That's what happens just before it bottoms out, right? The volatility changes, and then we see it kind of flattens out, not a lot of price movement. So 2015, March, we see $40.13. And then we see, well, this is not really a lot of time, but in that month, it didn't really change that much. Then we see it rise and fall, but ends up higher than it started. Rise and fall, but ends up higher than it started. See, again, the same pattern we saw with Apple and Google. when the pattern changes, the rising and falling, in terms of where it ends up in a positive direction. When it's still trending downwards, when it reverses after falling, that point, that bottom, that temporary bottom, is lower than when it started to rise the last time, right? So you watching this GoPro, when is the bottom? When's the bottom? Rising, falling, not as much volatility, sort of flattening out. Now it rises, falls for the first time, stopping at a higher point. Then it does it again, right? So this might be a potential time to buy, right? Buying at, where are we at? At $49. Maybe you're a little bit more passive. You wait until the next time. Rises, falls, ends up higher than before. Maybe you jump in now, $50, right? Buy at 50, ride that wave up to 63. Problem is, look what comes next. I don't think it ever comes back to this point. So you would have needed to predict this. Otherwise, this would have been nice. And this is definitely what we're looking at right now. Is definitely, it's probably going to be more significant than this, but this is definitely something you're going to need to look at in terms of what's going to happen next with Bitcoin. If this bull market that a lot of people are anticipating happens, then the question is, as it always is, how long will it continue before it starts falling again? So this is all nice, fine and dandy, but equally as important as it is to predict the bottom so you can get your buy point, it's also important to predict the peak. How high is it going to go, right? How long are you going to ride the wave before you jump out? Because, you spend all this time predicting the bottom, jump in here, and then hold the position too long, and now you lose everything, right? So you got to consider that. Right now, we're just focused on the bottom. We're looking for a buy opportunity, but just remember what comes next, right? So let's look at another one. Let's look at Netflix. So Netflix, so I'm looking for where it was just going down for a period of time. Look at this. There we go. Here's a nice one. Look at this. This is, I think, one of the best ones. It's just going up and up and up and up. Netflix, a great company. Buy it, man. It's a buy. This is a stock to buy, man. Jump on that, right? And it peaked here. Could you have predicted that it would peak there? Did you see this coming? Right? Then you see it falling. Oh no. How low is it going to go? Look at it. Aggressively plummets, falls, rises just a little bit, falls, rises a bit, falls, flattens for a bit, falls hard, right? Flattens for a bit, falls hard. And then ultimately the bottom for this, see, you never want to get the exact bottom, but somewhere around here is probably its lowest point. But a good point to buy for some short-term gains would have been right here, because you could have gotten that and jumped out, right? Jump in here, jump out, right? And then jump back in perhaps here. But ultimately, you could tell by here that there's a major change in pattern, right? It was previously doing this kind of thing, right? Then it did that. Then it rises more aggressively than it was previous to the plummet, right? So this is a little bit uncharacteristic of the previous growth, right? Then it kind of flattens out, then it falls again, right? That's kind of a little bit of an anomaly, which I'm sure is based a lot on what happened here, right? Based on what a lot of traders did here, and then sort of the aftermath. This is, to me, the aftermath. And then when we get back to business, it's right around here. But how do we predict that? We definitely see a major change in pattern here. You could think, okay, this is it. It's going to keep rising, right? But then it starts falling again, right? It hasn't really fully reversed. That's a little bit of an anomaly. But when it starts rising for real, which is about here, we can see We have this trend line, right? And then we have this trend line, right? But notice the same pattern we talked about before. It rises, falls, but ends up higher than it was before. Rises, falls, ends up higher. So it's going in a positive direction for a period of time. So this is let's get some dates. So this is, why do I not see the date? Why do I not see the date? I guess I gotta scroll down. Where's the date for this? I do not see a date. We're experiencing temporary issues. Is that why I can't see a date on here? So I don't know when the date is. Maybe if I click on it, let's see. Click. Nope. That just draws a line. That's not what I wanted to do. So I'm not sure what the date is here. But anyway, so here was the actual bottom. Here's the pattern change. And it just continues. So there was the opportunity for you to jump back in. Right? So now we've looked at a few different bottoms from different stocks. Now, of course, we're looking at stocks versus cryptocurrencies, different asset class, but still, this information is useful. Now, if you go back to Bitcoin, and actually, let's pull up Bitcoin here, and let's zoom in, and let's see if we can utilize some of what we just saw. So we see this massive rise, then it falls, right? Then it rises. But again, at the end of this peak, it's lower than when it started. End of this peak, lower than when it started, right? Then it does a short-term pattern change where it's gaining, right? But doesn't last long, then it reverses. Right? Then you do this like smooth rise, relatively smooth fall. So based on what we're seeing here, we have not seen the bottom yet. Definitely haven't seen a change in pattern. So my advice would be to continue watching this. I would set up alerts and continue to watch this like a hawk and see if you can identify a major pattern change towards growth. So here, based on what I'm seeing here, I see a trend which is generally headed down. That's the trend line that we're seeing now. So we want to look for, see if I can draw line, area, candle. I guess I could do something here. So what we want to see is, let's say it goes down to this point, right? And then it rises up. I am not the best with this drawing tool. Let's see, it goes up. What is happening? Rises up. I don't know how to use this thing. This, I wanted to draw. Well, basically, we want to see it start rising and falling, but falling at a higher point than it was before. Rising and falling at a higher point than it was before. Now, that being said, cryptocurrencies are extremely volatile and very risky for sure. As usual, don't invest any more money than you're willing to lose. The last time that it grew, it started pretty smoothly. So this is 2016. It's generally trending upward, but very, very slight, right? It falls back, rises up, falls back, rises up. The line gets more aggressive, then it falls, and it gets way aggressive. Then here's when it really, last year, November, that's when it went crazy. November to December, it's just insane, right? So one thing to keep in mind is if it does this again, it's due to the volatility of this. It's just so like a departure from those other stocks that we looked at. It does not do that up and down thing. It's just pretty much all up at this point anyway. Just prior to that, it does some, you know, rise and fall, but you still see the trend, right? If we draw from here to here, before it goes crazy, there's still that general trend upwards. We still have that general pattern where it falls and it rises, but it always ends up higher than when it was before, right? And then at some point in time, when it falls and it rises, it just doesn't stop, right? But I guess the bottom line is, okay, so now it got so aggressive, and I guess that's a lot of the hype, right? It got so aggressive that it's just all up. It's not doing the up and down thing, right? But prior to that, it still follows the same or similar pattern to what we saw with Google, what we saw with Apple, where the rising and falling, but falling at a higher point than when it started. That's what it's doing here, the same thing. So this pattern is still consistently indicating that the instrument is headed in a positive direction, right? So I don't think it's going to spike aggressively as it did before, but we might be looking for something similar to this. Look for something similar to this, which again, it's the same pattern we saw before, right? And then it's consistently doing that. That might be an opportunity to jump in. The question though is, how high is it going to go? Don't just plan to jump in. You got to plan when you're going to jump out as well, right? MK is in the house. MK says, they say BTC PT is 15K by the end of 2018. What do you say? I don't know. I mean, I'm sticking on the technical side of things. I'm looking for the change in pattern, as we just pointed out, but that's without consideration for other factors that might affect the price. So in order to answer that question about how high it's going to go, I would want to know some of the other things. I want to look at the news, like what's going on with things that are relevant to BTC, things that'll affect BTC. I want to look at those things and consider them as well. I know there's been a lot of talk about increasing regulations, and that can definitely affect the price. So I would look at those factors. I would always continue to assess the, you know, how viable this is. It's a new market. It's a new thing that people who think, you know, it's all gonna just go away, and it could very well just go away, right? So that obviously is the largest risk, because if that's the case, then rather than this pattern change, it could just continue to go down 3,000, 2,000, 1,000, right? And then maybe the whole market just crashes and we see the end of it, right? That's always a possibility. Some of the first stocks that I purchased, I went through that. I went through one that, you know, I try to take advantage of some discounts. So yeah, it's nice to take advantage of discount markets, which I love to do. When everyone's running and screaming, that's when I like to, again, cash is king, right? Cash is king. You have money in the bank, and when things are bad, you're empowered to be able to jump in and get things half price, right? And then ride the wave. But I tried to take advantage of the banking crisis when prices were really low, and I bought some stuff real cheap. I think I bought it like $23 a share, and unfortunately, one of my picks ended up being a bad one in terms of they actually went almost down to nothing. Right? That's rare, but it does happen. And if that can happen to something more traditional, think about the risk of something new, like, you know, cryptocurrencies. So you have to always be aware that there's always going to be a risk that this could all go away. It could all go away, or if you think it's bad now, like, oh man, it was 18,000 before, now it's all the way down to 5,000. How low will it go? Imagine if it goes down to 100, 50, 20, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, seto, cuarto, what's it called? Tre? I'm sorry. Tre, due, uno. Oh my, that's my, I gotta practice my counting, man. I gotta work on my my Italian counting. Let me see. Uno, due, tre, quattro, cinque, sei, sette, otto, nove, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Buongiorno! This is where we go from talking about cryptocurrencies to a language class. Welcome, MK. Welcome, Saeed. Trying Russia. Oh my goodness. You want me to say Russia? Man, all I know how to say is das vedanya. Dobre utro, dobre noche. Dobre utro, dobre noche. Koreaslo. MK's laughing at me. So anyway, so yeah, either this thing could continue to tank and we could suffer some, you know, more sustained losses, or we could look at another major spike and opportunity to make a lot of money real quick. But one thing is for sure, I would be watching this very closely. I've been watching it for a period of time. I've been watching it closely from, when did I start really watching it? I would say summer. From summer, right after the craziness happened, I was looking for a 6,000 target. That was when I was looking to jump in. And so I would say probably around this is when I was looking at it. So I was looking at 8,000, 7,000. So keep in mind, when it was still at 9,000, 10,000, I was already predicting a 6,000 low, right? And that was gonna be when I was gonna jump in. And I watched it fall and fall and fall. So I already knew that it was gonna be a long ride, you know, heading down to the bottom. I just didn't know how low it was gonna go. And I watched it get close to 6,000, and I said, okay, this might be my time, right? And I could have made some short-term gains right here because it did rise up to 8,000 in a short period of time from June to here. But you know, I held on. I said, you know what? Let me just see what's happening next, because it might go lower. And it goes 63, 62, and okay, I'm like, okay, so it's starting to stabilize. But I don't know if that's really the bottom. So I keep waiting it out. And I end up being right to adjust. See, that's the thing. Original plan was 6,000, right? But just because I was original plan, I didn't just, as soon as it hit 6,000, I'm gonna jump right in. I reassessed and I said, I don't know about this. And I made the right decision, because if I jumped in right here, I would have written it down from 6,400 down to 4,500, which would not have been good, right? So now with this big jump down like that, and just how it's been sort of stabilized, I'm definitely predicting that there's going to be some pattern change pretty soon. I'm hoping that it's going to be a positive pattern change. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that growth where it starts rising and falling higher than it started. And then it repeats that pattern. That becomes a consistent pattern. Then at that point in time is when I'm going to jump in. So those are my thoughts. Do you trade options? Generally speaking, no. I'm more equities. I'm mostly equities. Anyway, thank you for joining in. Thank you for clicking on the like button. I know MK clicked on the like button. Saeed clicked on the like button. Also, Adolf. I don't know what your last name is. I don't want to know what your last name is. Hit the like button. Everybody hit the like button. I appreciate the support. And hopefully this video was helpful for you. For those of you SQL guys, I do have some SQL content I'm working on. It will be published shortly. The trade system project is ongoing. We have a GUI going. I am looking at, like I said, I'm going to integrate the SQL content with the trading system, because one of the things we need to do is we need to build a conduit between the database and the front end. So that means I need to sort out the database side of things. So while I'm doing that, I'll do some content related to SQL. Can you do fixed protocol testing examples? What do you mean by that, MK? What are fixed protocol testing examples? Like real world examples? You mean you just want to look at some more real fix logs? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying? ¿Cuál pregunta? Das gut. Das ist gut. Wie geht's? Sorry, I'm slower typer. I'm not sure. I know how to read and get what are the messages are, but how you test it. I'm not sure what you mean by testing it. I mean, when you are onboarding a fix product, like OMS that uses the fix protocol, testing is obviously a big part of that. And in testing, all you're doing is you're making sure that when I send something out, the way it's received by the counterparty is as expected. So if I send you a buy order for 1,000 shares of Apple, the counterparty should see that buy order for 1,000 shares of Apple. It shouldn't be another instrument. It shouldn't be another quantity. It shouldn't be another price. Price precision is definitely something that we want to be considerate of. And also, you know, if I send you a cancel replace, do you see it as a cancel replace? When I replace something, do you get the replace message processed properly to where whatever change I've requested has been accepted and is reflected by the GUI, right? So the bottom line is, are we in sync? What I see is what you see, right? When I send you information, you interpret it as expected, as opposed to I'm sending you one thing and then you're receiving it as something else. So that's predominantly how the testing is done. And then we just go through the different scenarios, you know, session reject, order reject, session dropped, you know, bringing up the session, taking the session down, sequence number, resets, you know, that kind of stuff. Anyway, this stream has lasted way longer than it should have. I need to get going. I'm hungry. I have some work I need to get done. So on that note, gracias por your likes. Tiene un buen día. Have a good day and happy holidays to everyone. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Prospero año felicidad. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. For those that celebrate it. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Feliz Navidad. Prospero año felicidad. What is this? Is this a fixed protocol channel? Is this a trading channel, technology channel, or is this a language channel? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 100. 100. All right, guys. Thanks for joining. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for the support. And stay tuned for more content. MK, I'm not sure when the next live stream will be. My schedule is as volatile as the cryptocurrency market. I do streams when I can. And perhaps in the future, I will come up with a schedule because I know that's advisable. That's a better way to do things. But very, very challenging for myself. One thing I'm definitely going to be looking to do is I need to have other means of communicating with you guys because YouTube is extremely unreliable and inconsistent. So, you know, when I post a video, you guys might or might not get notified. You know, if YouTube was an employee, I would have fired them a long time ago because sometimes they show up for work, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they do what they're told to do, sometimes they don't. It's just, you never know. It's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. Right, so I need something consistent where where we can have a expectation of consistency. When I post, you guys get notified. Period. Right, and that's how it should be. I'm also looking at developing something that will address that, not just for myself but for others as well, where we will have a notification platform that will address all of the issues, where we will take back the streets. You know, we'll take back the control from the machines. The machines are controlling our lives. They are jumping in and deciding what we want to watch and all this kind of stuff. And the technology serves its purpose, but it's gotten out of control now where the machines are taking over. And I'm going to stand up against that by giving you guys options to take control and see what you want to see, right? Get what you want. You ordered chocolate ice cream, you should get chocolate ice cream. You shouldn't get, well, you know what? I think you'd like vanilla. Right? You go to the ice cream shop, you order chocolate. Like, you know what? You probably want the vanilla. Here's a vanilla. No. That shouldn't be the case. Right? That should not be the case. It's nice for technology to help you out in terms of weeding through a lot of noise and, you know, kind of things like that. But you should still have the ability to get what you want. Right? Like, for example, use the ice cream shop analogy. It would be nice if they were using machine learning that looks on your buy history and certain patterns to assess what ice cream flavor you might like for times when you don't want to decide. Right? So you have the option of saying, I don't want to decide. You tell me what flavor, right? And it says, based on your patterns, you want vanilla. Okay, I'll take vanilla, right? That's cool. But you should also have the ability that if you have a feeling that you want to have chocolate ice cream, you should be able to go into the ice cream shop and say chocolate ice cream, and they give you chocolate ice cream. But that's not how YouTube works. YouTube has gone to almost 100% the previous model, which is they always decide for you what you want, right? You can suggest what you want. Like, you go, that's if YouTube is an ice cream shop, that's how they work. You go in there and you say, I want chocolate, and they don't give you chocolate. They give you what they think you want almost every time. Once in a while, you might get chocolate, right? And that to me is ridiculous. I should have the option of giving YouTube the ability to decide for me, or the option to say, this is what I want, and to get what I want, right? But that's not how it is. Unfortunately, YouTube has gone the way of Skynet, and they have allowed the machines to take over. But I'm not having it. I've had enough of it. It's unacceptable that just because I'm not a full-time YouTuber, I probably will never be a full-time YouTuber. I just don't have the time for it, right? It's not something that I'm looking to do, but it's unfair that I could produce the best quality content, but because the machines don't like me because I'm not posting regular content or what they want me to post, that I get silenced, right? That's not fair. Either you go full speed ahead and go with the trends, or you get silenced. Like, that's ridiculous. If I'm producing quality content that people want to watch and it's helping people, I should be able to have that content be seen. There shouldn't be a machine stepping in and saying, no, guys, you want to watch a cat video. No. Forget about something that's going to help you earn money and better your life. Forget about that. You want to see the latest diss track video, right? That's some Skynet mumbo jumbo, which is gotten beyond the point of ridiculous. But you can sit around and complain, or you can come up with solutions. I'm working on solutions, right? Ultimately, I need to be in control of the communication between myself and my subscribers. People subscribe to me for the content that I produce, right? They enjoy the content. I should be able to communicate with them. But right now, I can only communicate with 5% of my subscribers. The rest of them, Fixed Protocol hasn't posted any videos in 5 years, right? Because once again, we have this middleman, this Skynet machine that steps in. And I'm here to say, I'll be back. Sorry, I had to, I'm sorry. Anyway, send us a private email. Well, there is a mailing list, which admittedly I haven't been using. So that's totally my fault. But once again, I have a career, right? I have a busy life, a lot of stuff I'm always working on. And if you don't pay enough attention to things, this is the kind of stuff that's going to happen, right? With attention comes the ability to master something, right? And paying the attention, I would master all my tools. You have a mailing list, use the mailing list, right? But again, this is something I do, when I can, right? I'm juggling a lot of other things, so it's definitely very challenging. But bottom line is, once again, you can make excuses or you can come up with solutions. I'm working on solutions. I volunteered to build that notification app. Can we hit you up when need help with any content you post? Sure. You just comment on all the videos. And by the way, you should comment on every video. That stuff matters. I don't care if you spam my comment section. It doesn't matter. I mean, Google's pretty smart, so if you just keep writing the same thing, it'll probably pick up on that as spam and maybe start blocking you. So you want to make it not be obvious, but if you say hi in every video, or this is great, thanks, or just something, that all helps the channel. But again, I want to move away from being so dependent on the machine. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. Sorry. All right, guys, I gotta go. Thanks for watching. Thank you for joining in, MK and everybody else. And be good. Happy holidays. No drunk driving. Don't eat too much. Just because it's on the table doesn't mean you have to eat it. Have a little bit of discretion and self-control. In America, we eat way too much. And we need to have a little bit of self-control. Same way you treat the stock market, same thing. Have self-control. Don't be greedy. Drive safe, be safe, and enjoy the time with your family, whatever your religious beliefs are, traditional beliefs are. Just have a good time, and don't get caught up in too much of the insanity, like eating too much and also buying too much. right? A lot of these holidays are very commercialized. You know, buy this, buy that. You know, it's beginning to sound a lot like Christmas. All these silly ads. Yeah, just be smart. All right, guys. Until the next live stream, everyone, be well. Thank you for watching.